Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, my number 4 is a game called Psychic Warrior Susan on the Xbox 360. It's an indie game. This is a really interesting one and an infuriating one at the same time. It's as soon as it started, I was like, this is going to be rubbish. You're this woman who apparently has psychic powers, and it's just a very, very basic platform, walking from left to right, jumping a little bit, and then they give you a sword, and then you start swiping with this sword, and it's got a really small attack radius, and it's just like, this is rubbish. And then it stops and it allows you to use your psychic powers. Basically, you press the right bumper and it gives you the ability to, a cursor comes up and you start moving blocks around. I was like, okay. So that you walk up to it, there's a wall blocking your way, and you start moving the blocks one by one out the way, and then you get past it. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And it's just, for about an hour, it's really cool. You have to unblock your path. You're vulnerable when you stop to use it, so you have to make sure there's no enemies around. You use these blocks to then build bridges, reach collectibles, and sort of attack enemies that are out of reach initially, and you block off fire that turrets. It's just really cool ideas. I mean, it's not. I think if I had to think, I could probably think of a game that's done something similar. But for about an hour, I was like, this is actually really cool, really inventive, a really nice system. And I was constantly, for an hour, I was like, if this stopped now, this would be a really easy to recommend. It's 80 Microsoft points. I'd be recommending it to the hills. But it's not an hour long. It's between 3 and 4 hours long. And
right.
Part of the charm of it is that it's the controls are really finicky and uneven, but that doesn't matter because it's not a platformer, it's a puzzle game. A very mild puzzle game, but a puzzle game all the same. And then it stops being a puzzle game, it becomes a platformer. And they're so finicky and so inaccurate, and it's a very sketchy game. It's clearly a first run attempt. There's breaks in it a lot. Sometimes you'll jump and you'll hit the ceiling and bounce off it. Sometimes you'll jump in your head and go through the ceiling, so it's impossible to gauge jumps.
Right.
There's also the rooms become much bigger and the save points become much further. It's brutally difficult. You can get hit by 3 enemies, or if you fall, you're dead and you're straight back to the last checkpoint. But I did some sections of it, I don't know how many times, 20 times maybe. And this is a time. I was playing it thinking, why am I wasting hours of my life playing this? I was kind of expecting it to have a sort of amazing ending or something. It doesn't. It just stops. But it's a real shame because it's like any piece of art. If you start repeating yourself, pull the cord. If you're going to keep doing the same things over and over again, it's like we talk about it in games all the time. They run out of ideas, so they just keep regurgitating. It's something. The great thing about Xbox Live Indie games is that you find games that just smash and grab, in and out, there and out. Like the horror game I spoke about a little while ago. 40 minutes long it was. It didn't need to be any longer than that. It's perfect. If this was an hour, I'd really be recommending it. But it gets so difficult and so frustrating, and all of there's nothing new introduced. There's no new systems in play. It's just the same thing over and over again, just really, really hard, and the platforming is really irritating. It's a shame because I want to. Do you know what? On balance, I still recommend it. At least, at the very least, the trial is worth looking at because it is genuinely inventive and quite clever. It's just a shame it goes on as long as it does, because if it didn't, I'd be really recommending it. So yeah, Psychic Warrior Susan. If you're interested in the trial, definitely check that out. At least it's worth a look.
Yeah, right. That does sound reasonably interesting, but it's definitely a very good point about having an editor or being able to self-edit in some cases.
It is hard though, because I was like, this. You can tell that the guy, I think it's one guy that made it, wanted to just give you as much content as possible. And it's hard to really knock that, but when the game, it's so frustrating how easy it is to die, and when you die because you jump a certain way in 2 different, it's maddening. But yeah, if it was an hour, it'd be worth it. But I still recommend it. It's because it is genuinely quite clever for the first hour.